A couple of months ago, I was hanging out on one of those music feedback live streams, and one of my beats ended up getting played, and someone in the chat actually popped on and said they would be interested in adding vocals to one of my lo-fi beats. This immediately piqued my interest because I'm pretty interested in trying to start exploring some different subgenres outside of just the sleepy lo-fi lane that I've been pretty steadily flowing in for a while now. So when I saw that message come through, I immediately was like, yo, hit me up, dude, let's see what we can do. And now, just a couple months later, one of the tracks that we made together is dropping today. So without further ado, this is how I made High Again with my new buddy, The Disguise.
It is 3 a.m. Now I'm high again. It is 3 a.m. And now I'm alone again. It will be heaven again.
So like I alluded to in the intro, up until this point, most of what I've done in music production has been very much instrumentals, lo-fi beats, where an instrument is the lead voice. So in this case, rather than having an instrument be the voice, I was just making a beat and trying to leave plenty of room for a voice to be added. So why don't we take a listen to just the beat that I sent The Disguise, and then we can pop in, I'll show you guys how I made that, and then we'll get into a little bit of the vocal production before a special surprise at the very end, so be sure to stick around till the end of the video. So this is just a little taste of what I sent to The Disguise. So you'll obviously hear that this is a very simple composition, right? There's not a ton of motion. There's visibly not a lot of layers. But melodically, we've got really, really simple stuff going on with a sustained piano chord strike and then these reverse keys. So let's pop in and check out exactly what I did there. So nothing too crazy. It's basically just an 8-bar loop. We've got the first 2 bars are basically the same in each of the halves of this repeat, I guess. And then I played around a little bit with the timing of the 3rd and 4th chord in repeat 1 and repeat 2. And then by the second time around, I had a second, different chord in this 7th bar here. So nothing too crazy, but I definitely wanted to be like a little bit more interesting than like chord, 4 beats chord. So you can see in the 4th chord, I pushed it back 1 beat, whereas in that 8th chord, I brought it forward 1 beat. So just give it a little bit of a pulse, and that is on the claustrophobic piano. So then for this reverse chord layer, normally this would be something that I would like write a melody and then reverse the audio, but at the time I was making this track, I had just finally gotten Imagiro piano and started playing around with the actual like reverse setting. I basically just used an arpeggio, or like arpeggiated through the chords that I had strummed with that claustrophobic piano, dialed in the reverse time and the start and end times of some of these notes so that they would feel the way that I wanted to. And I allowed that to kind of like poke its head into some of the more empty parts of the arrangement. So in the intro, it's there, and then it goes away for the first verse, comes back in for the bridge, and then back in for the outro. So that becomes like the melodic, I guess really it's doing most of the driving of the melodic stuff going on in the beat itself. And the rest of this is all just kind of foundational. Again, I'm trying to leave a lot of space for a vocalist to come in. Then as the drop hits, we've got, simplest bass line of all time. We're following that same rhythm of the chord strikes, just root notes on a nice long sustain with the decay turned all the way up on my good old friend Keybase here. Classic free bass plugin that I will apparently never grow tired of. And then really the final melodic component that I had laid down was one more layer of these reversed keys, just kind of on a slightly different patch, and that's just kind of filling the space as the note decays away from the claustrophobic piano strike. So that ends up giving a little bit more variance to what would otherwise be a very repetitive track. We hit that second stretch of the drop, and we get this nice chord reverse that fills the space where the chord strike goes away. just gives it a little more bounce, a little more intrigue. So all together, the melodic components kind of flow into each other like this. So coming from... Like I said, super simple. My major goal here was to just make sure I had plenty of room for the disguise to come in and come up with some vocals, have all the creative freedom I wanted. And then I was thinking if it felt a little bit empty, I could always pop back in and add some extra counter melodies. Real quick, because I want to save time for the special surprise at the end of the video, which I highly recommend you stick around for. Let's go through just kind of what the drums are up to. I'm not going to break down every stem. As far as sound selection goes, it's a nice combination of some different kits I've collected over my years here. Predominantly, we've got stuff from Dark Winter's Sleepy Lo-Fi Pack, which I talked about 2 videos ago back in November. I can't believe I've only posted 2 videos since November. And then we've also got some stuff from the Lo-Fi Sounds kits. Big shout out to those guys. I do have a special discount code for 10% off the entire store if you use the code LukeDaily10. You get 10% off from Lo-Fi Sounds. I love those guys. I love the samples they make. And they just dropped a new Lo-Fi Jazz, no, what is it? Blue Hour Jazz drum kit, I think. I haven't even checked out the new pack yet. It's basically brand new as I'm recording this. But all the stuff that they drop is super dope, so I highly recommend you check that out if you're looking for some new sounds. But yeah, with, you know, kind of like an amalgam of samples that I selected from my library here, I really just want to come up with something that, like, I guess felt a little bit more lively than my usual sleepy stuff, obviously, because this is not just a sleepy lo-fi beat. There's a lot more to it. So I tried to keep it relatively simple while still finding some semblance of a pocket. And then the only other thing you're going to see is that I did a little bit of arranging with the drum stems themselves, you know, cutting out certain hi-hat layers and different snare layers and whatnot, just to help the energy flow a little bit up and down between the intro, verse, bridge, etc. But I also added this parametric EQ automation, so you'll see that's just on this kind of higher bright hi-hat. I think it might be this one. So I just did this kind of like low pass EQ to take some of those highs out, to thin that out at some of the lower energy parts like the intro and the bridge. So other than that, we've just kind of got everything routed to their own appropriate buses. The drum reverb bus, got a fruity reverb too. I tend to like this because it feels a little bit more like a room than some of the other reverbs that I have. It's really just kind of like a matter of layering, doing some EQing, making sure we're shaping the sounds so that they fit together the way that we want to, and ideally leaving some space for a vocalist to pop in. Let's give Just the Beat one more listen, just through a little bit of the first drop, and then we can talk a little bit about the vocals. If you listen to this and you think that you would be able to add vocals to something that simple, definitely leave a comment and let me know. This is something I'm interested in doing a lot more of, but I guess I'm hoping to get a better sense of like what is the right amount of busy for an instrumental to send to a vocalist. So let me know in the comments if you think this was amply produced to send over and get the kind of result that I did. All right, enough about my basic repetitive beat. Let's get into like what really makes this track what it is, all the beautiful work that the Disguise did on the vocals to give it so much of the identity. So like I said, I was thinking that I would be popping back in to add like ear candy, call and response, additional melodies, but the Disguise sent me a ton of vocal takes that really worked to fill the spaces that I was thinking I was going to be needing to fill on my end. So really my job from here was essentially just doing the mix and the masters. So I asked the Disguise to send me each of the vocal stems completely dry, so I had total control to mix it into the project. And really each of them are processed in a pretty similar fashion. You know, they're all processed individually, routed to the same like reverb and delay buses. But as far as like their effects chain vertical goes, they're all pretty much the same idea with different amounts of filtering basically. So I'm not going to go through each chain, I'll just take you through the main vocal chain to give you an idea of what I did on my end to kind of turn it into what it was. and you'll probably get a sense of what was done with the rest just from looking at this. The first thing I did was throw on an instance of Pitcher. This is the FL Studio stock auto-tune. It's pretty solid. If you're a little bit on the pitchier side with your singing, it can definitely get a little bit wavy and introduce some artifacts, but the Disguise was actually super tight with his tuning on all these takes. So I felt like this was definitely appropriate compared to like Melodyne or New Tone, which end up being like a little bit more computationally intensive and definitely more time consuming. So from there, I've got it going into a multi-band compressor. Honestly, all I'm really using this for is to really boost the volume so that when we hit the compressors later in the chain, they're actually doing something. It's just kind of getting it up to mix volume. Probably adding a little bit of color, especially in the higher frequencies here. Then we've got a parametric EQ. This is just a pretty classic. I think it's even, the vocal presence preset on parametric EQ too. From there, we've got 2 Fruity limiters. These are just simple, compression settings. We've got one on a higher threshold, and this is basically grabbing all of the peaks from the take and squishing those down fairly forcefully so that everything's at a relatively similar volume. And we've got a slightly lower threshold at a slightly less aggressive ratio. That's really kind of gluing it all down so that everything feels a little bit more consistent. That's going to give you like a much thicker, fuller, even vocal sound. From there, this is really like a pretty lo-fi specific choice. Obviously, I'm a lo-fi producer. I was trying to make a lo-fi vocal song, so one of the ways I decided to do that was to really take a lot of the high end out. It's still there, this isn't like a brick wall or anything like that. It's not like a filter. It's just kind of, taming that off, rolling it out, and giving it a little bit more of like a rounded, warmer tone. On the main vocal, the RC20 isn't doing much. I've got this really narrow band filter that only comes in for certain phrases, which I'll get to in a second. Some of the ear candy layers have a little bit more like steady, kind of always on RC20, but doing a similar thing, where I'm mostly using it for the filter and the reverb. So then after all that processing, we're routing to 2 separate buses, one for reverb and one for delay. So for the reverb, I've got a Valhalla Supermassive, and of course Baby Come Back, another free plugin by Baby Audio that I talked about a whole bunch on the channel. All of that together takes this dry take, which you're gonna hear a fair bit of boxiness and a lot of like that bass frequency.
It is 3 a.m.
to this.
It is 3 a.m. Now I'm high again.
So you can really feel those like delays are living out. They're multi-dimensional, especially the way they're interacting with that reverb. I really like the way that kind of texture all came together, and I especially like the way that all the processing with the EQs and the filters really shaped this one. Beyond that, like I said, there's all these like extra layers, the filler that he had to define as panable, which I definitely took advantage of. Some ear candy phrases. We got another high layer for the bridge, another high take for the end, a cool reverse layer for the intro, and a couple of hums for the intro as well. So I went through and I processed all these individually, very similarly, compression, EQ, obviously some RC20, give it that lo-fi vibe, and a little bit of automation with the panning, mostly routing to that same reverb and delay bus to help kind of put everything in the same space. So when we listen to everything in context, hopefully you feel that nice lo-fi vibe. We start off with these hums here, into the reverse. Then we've got that reverb and delay really sticking around.
It is 3 a.m. Now I'm
Playing around with the panning a little bit.
It is 3 a.m. And now I'm alone again. It will be heaven again when I'm yours again. Covered in white again.
And then one little moment of intrigue here with that automation on the RC20 filter.
From your arms, I fall for a charm, I fall for a charm.
I promised you an exciting surprise at the end of this video, and that is just what I have, because rather than my usual playthrough and see you guys next time, the Disguise actually put together a full-blown bona fide music video for this track. So before I roll that, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you to the Disguise for sending me such great vocals, for hitting me up in that live stream chat. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the beat, if you think that you could come with vocals over something this simple, and of course, if there's anything you want to see me cover next. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
It is 3 a.m. Now I'm high again. It is 3 a.m. And now I'm alone again. It will be heaven again when I'm yours again. Covered in white again. I might fade away from your arms. I fall for a chance, I fall for a chance from your love. I fall for a lust, I fall for a touch. Don't you cry again. You make me weaker. She took it off again. I made her come again. All again. All again. All again. High again. All again. I made her come again. All again. High again. All again. It is 3 a.m. Now I'm high again. It is 3 a.m. And now I'm alone again. It will be heaven again when I'm high again. Covered in red again. I might cut away to fade away.
Thank you again for watching. Huge shout out to Chill Space for supporting this release. Go listen to it on all your favorite streaming platforms. It is out now. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.